Last week, an appeals court in Lagos freed Major Hamza Al-Mustapha. That single move changed the political atmosphere of Nigeria. Welcome back to SaharaTV. My name is Rudolf Onkonwo. Joining me to discuss that move is Dr. Fredrick Faeshun, who is the founder of the Oodua People's Congress and also the leader of the newly formed Unity Party of Nigeria. He recently followed Major Hamza Al-Mustapha back to Kano after a Lagos court freed him. Dr. Faeshun, welcome to SaharaTV.
Thank you very much.
Let me start by asking you, your friends and admirers, they were baffled that you accompanied Major Mustapha back to Kano. And many Nigerians are today asking, how did you end up becoming Mustafa's right-hand man?
I am not Major Mustafa's right-hand man. I am the right-hand man of social justice. Al-Mustapha was incarcerated in a prison situated in Yoruba land. And the tendency in this country, Nigeria, is to think that Al-Mustapha had been incarcerated by the Yoruba people. And at a point, I even appealed to the federal powers that they should remove Al-Mustapha from any prison situated in Yoruba land. Because I knew that fifth columnists might even come and liquidate that young man in Kirikiri. And if that happened, if Al-Mustapha, by any means, died in a prison situated in Yoruba land, Yoruba people in the north will be at great risk. There are about 4 million Yoruba people in Kano State alone. And if their son died in our hands, virtually every Yoruba person might have his throat slashed. That was why I stood by justice, and I have been crying out that this young man did not commit the crime he was accused of. He didn't commit the offense he was incarcerated for, and that he should be left to go home or given a bail to go home and come from home to answer the charges in court.
Now, let me ask you, many people do not know that under Abacha you were detained for 3 years. And
yes.
Mustafa was the chief security officer during that era. Are you
yes.
saying, and we know there were many atrocities that were committed by the government, are you saying that he doesn't bear any responsibility for any of those atrocities?
No, I'm not saying it. I'm not saying he didn't bear. He's not an angel. And Nigeria is not the land of angels anyway. So I'm not saying he didn't. Obviously, he would have, as a human being, who would have committed some of the offenses committed by the regime he served. But I'm saying this particular one, he did not commit it. Prosecution witnesses were arraigned against him. The prosecution witnesses, they gave their own testimony some time back, and they came back to court crying and sobbing that the testimony they gave, the evidence they gave against Al-Mustapha was fake, that they were induced to give that evidence against him. And the inducement, they stated, but when the powers that be failed in their own part of the bargain, the witnesses came back to court, open court, crying and weeping and sobbing that they had committed an offense against an innocent person. Now, if you remember that not just 2 prosecution witnesses were in court, where are the others? The others that owned up, even pulling the trigger, are now moving free all over the country.
Now, doctor, let me, because I'm concerned about that. You said that there were special interests that wanted him hanged. Can you tell us who are these special interests?
Oh, well, the powers that be.
I know you can mention their names. Can you tell us?
The powers that be. And I gave a press conference yesterday, and I made mention of certain names that wanted this man hanged. Now, the prosecution witnesses didn't have their own original evidence. The evidence was put together by security operatives, by people who were very high in the scheme of things in this country. And because the government failed to play their own part of the bargain, the people came back to court to spill the beans.
Now, Doctor, you're talking to an international audience. I will ask if you can mention those names, because we were not at the press conference you gave yesterday. Who are these special interests?
Well, the State Security Service was part. Even the Attorney General of the Federation at that time was there. The Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice of Lagos State was there.
So what are they trying to protect? Why do they want him to die? What are they trying to protect?
Only God knows what they were trying to protect. I think the international community should find out what they were trying to protect. There is a popular adage that it is better for 9 offenders to go scot-free rather than
for an innocent person to be in jail.
Innocent person.
All right, Doctor, let me ask you. Mustafa's welcome back to Kano as a hero. Some people have described it as something similar to the return of Awolowo to the West after his time in prison in Calabar. Is Mustafa our Awolowo of our time? Do you think that is what he is?
I have not gone that far, but I know that a lot of injustice have been done to that young man, and eventually he has not been found guilty. He was found guilty by the lower court on circumstantial evidence, the circumstances that were not mentioned in the judgment. You follow me?
Yes, yes. Now,
the prosecution witnesses had retracted their testimonies, and yet the judge of the lower court based her judgment on these retracted testimonies.
So do you think we should go ahead and start looking for the people that killed Kudirat Abiola, or should the case now be closed?
I mean, it is up to the security operatives and Nigeria, or in Nigeria, to continue searching for the culprits.
Now,
right?
now
the appeal courts have now judged that Al-Mustapha was not part of that incident.
Now, Doctor, you know that your position and the role you are playing is not very popular in the western part of Nigeria. How were you received when you came back from Kano?
When I came back from Kano?
Yeah.
Those who understood my line of argument welcomed me back and congratulated me. But those who think there must be an I for perceived I didn't take it, and they have been crying. They have been trying to tie me to the stake to set me on fire.
Mm. Now, if you meet Abiola's children, what are you going to tell them?
I will tell them that that Nigerians don't believe in an eye for an eye. An eye for an eye in Nigeria would leave Nigerians blind.
Mm. Now, you are the leader of OPC, and during Obasanjo's time, you were actively demanding for the restructuring of Nigeria. Recently, in the last few years, it appears as if OPC seem to have accepted the way things are. Is that a right characterization of the position of OPC or the pulse of OPC now?
OPCs will stand for justice and with justice.
Now, you also founded the Unity Party of Nigeria. Is that a revival of the Awolowo's UPN, or is this a new party in itself?
It's a resuscitation of the old UPN, because we have adopted the programs of the old UPN, we have adopted the manifesto and the constitution. So we're not claiming that the current UPN is a new thing, but the characteristics are similar to the characteristics of the old UPN.
Mm. Now,
we stand for justice. We stand for the right of the common man. We believe that the people should be the center of governance, and so on and so forth.
Now, you accuse the SCN of selecting their leaders. Apart from that, what is wrong with SCN that you have to form UPN to rebuild the western part of the country and by extension, the rest of the country?
UPN would adopt democratic methods through and through, which Chief Obafemi Awolowo preached throughout his life. What we have now in the ACN is selectocracy. Only the voice of one man prevails. That's where we're different.
And I believe the man you are referring to is Bola Tinubu.
Well, the leader of the ACN.
So how is Bola Tinubu different from Obafemi Awolowo? Explain that for people who might not know.
They're poles apart. They're poles apart.
Can you explain more, please?
Beg your pardon?
Okay, let's go forward. Let me ask you, because I know that Mustapha, you came out recently to say that Alamesia, the former governor of Bayelsa State, that the pardon that he was granted was the proper thing to do. And I want to ask you, many people are baffled because they wonder, how do we correct the ills of a society if on one hand we are reinforcing them by granting pardon to people like Alamesia, who everybody agreed...
I did not prescribe innocence. I didn't say Alamesia was innocent. So I couldn't have recommended him for...
But you said you had no problem with the pardon that the president granted Alamesia.
I didn't say that.
Oh, it wasn't right. Okay, that's what I found in a newspaper. Maybe the paper was wrong. They misquoted you.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say that.
Okay. Now, let me ask you something very serious and concerning to a lot of people who call our show and when we discuss Nigeria. A lot of people believe that the establishment, the people who are running the country, that they don't have the interests of the common man at heart. And now people are feeling that you have joined the establishment. Is that a good assessment of your current role in the structure of the country?
Anybody who believes that I have joined the establishment is doing a big wrong to me. because I have not joined the establishment in any form, in any way. If I had joined the establishment in any way, I didn't need to put up, to resuscitate the UPN, an entirely different political platform with different ideas, with different ideals, with different programs.
Now, let me ask you, for the OPC and the philosophy of that organization, are you in total control of the OPC, or the other faction, is it still divided among two different factions?
Well, I don't know about faction in the OPC. I know that a few people were sent out from the organization for their inability to comply with the rules and regulations of OPC. And I don't see that as a faction. I see it as a breakaway group. I founded the OPC, and where I am, any group of OPC people I have with me is the original OPC. There's no way the founder of an organization could be a faction of the organization.
Now, OPC fights for the interests of the Yoruba, and that continues. In the Nigerian structure today, do you think that the Yoruba are fairly treated? There are calls and there are reports that in assignment of positions in politics, that Yorubas are not treated well. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's accurate?
I was one of the original thinkers along that line, and I was one of the people who started the cry against marginalization. I was one of those who have written several letters to the powers that be, complaining that the Yoruba people have been badly marginalized, and I am in the forefront of that vanguard, complaining about marginalization of the Yoruba people.
So are you getting any responses from the government? Are they changing things?
I think we're getting responses, except that our detractors are determined to frustrate us. You remember the OPC applied for pipeline protection, and we were just about being awarded the contract when there was this cry that OPC was being bribed by the president. And of course, the president had to take things slowly, right? And where 40,000 Yoruba youth had been arranged to do that job, we have no apologies, even if we are awarded that contract. But up till now, we have not been awarded the contract because people cried foul. And those who should defend the interests of the Yoruba people, they cried foul, and the powers that be sort of listened to them and slowed the pace of thinking about the contract. And those who should have been defending the interests of the Yoruba people are those who were working against the award of that contract to 40,000 Yoruba youths.
So did you get? Are you getting any contract from the Lagos State government, for instance?
We have never got a kobo worth of contract from Lagos State.
Now, during Obasanjo's administration, you supported Obasanjo even though he was not a Democrat. We know he was a nuisance to democracy, and he didn't obey court orders. And now people are believing that you are supporting President Jonathan. Are you supporting at 78? Are you supporting any government in power, or you have really a special interest why you ally yourself with the government?
I am not supporting anybody. All I am saying is that the Constitution, the existing Constitution of the country, should be complied with, no matter how imperfect that Constitution is. And the Constitution has stipulated that anybody who gets into the position of the president has the opportunity to recontest for a second term. And that's all I am saying. I am saying to Nigerians everywhere that we should comply with our Constitution. All right? What goes round freely will come round unrestrained. That's my position. There is a Constitution, and every Nigerian should be allowed to enjoy his or her constitutional rights. If Jonathan had served one term and Nigerians vote for him a second time, why must we say he has no right to go a second term? That is my position. And I have also said that Nigerians too have the constitutional right to vote against him. He has his constitutional right to recontest. If Nigerians vote for him overwhelmingly and he's pronounced the president, of course, he has his rights to enjoy.
Now, let me ask you.
Constitutional right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to deny any Nigerian.
Let me ask you about this pipeline protection contract that you are going for. Is it the same thing as the kind of thing that the militants in the Niger Delta got from the government? Are you trying to position OPC the same way that the militants got rewarded with contracts?
If there is necessity to protect the pipeline, to protect against pipeline vandalization in the southwest, it's simple logic that the security group that can do that protection is the Oodua People's Congress, the OPC. The OPC has been involved in the protection of property in this part of the country for many, many years. So why can't we offer what we can offer and derive what we can derive? We're citizens of the country. We don't expect Northerners to come and protect the pipeline in our part of the country. If South people are protecting the pipeline in their part of the country, the Easterners are protecting the pipeline in their part of the country, why should it be different for Yoruba youth in Yoruba land?
Now,
there's no way, the government will not be seen in a good light if they import security operatives from elsewhere to come and defend or protect pipelines in our own part of the country.
Now, we are running out of time. Let me ask you, every now and then we hear people say that they should ban OPC, MASOB, and the Niger Delta groups. How do you respond to people who feel that organizations like the OPC is more like a nuisance to the country than a help to the country?
I don't know who says OPC is a nuisance to the country. Only the Yoruba people can complain against OPC. And the Yoruba people, they are in love with OPC. OPC is providing security of life and property in the Yoruba part of the country. So only a negligible minority would complain against OPC, not the generality of the people of the Southwest.
Recently, there is this news report that said that OPC members beat a man to death for stealing a phone in front of the man's mom. And I want to ask you, do you feel responsible for activities of OPC members across the western part of the country?
I have said it, that those who could not comply with the rules and the regulations of the organization have since been booted out of the organization. That goes to say we have standard in OPC. And those who cannot keep the standard of the OPC have found their way out of the OPC. Although the media keep saying OPC faction, OPC faction, OPC faction, instead of saying dissidents.
So how would the media know the difference between your own OPC and the dissidents?
In their activities.
So when it's good activity, it's likely to be your own, and when it's not good, it's the dissidents. Is that how they can differentiate?
The security operatives also know who is at fault. They know the group that is antisocial. They know the contributions our OPC makes to security of life and property.
Okay, one last question. I believe that people under your constituency mainly, they don't belong to the rich people who control most of Lagos. I want to get your assessment of how the governor of Lagos State, Fashola, has been doing, especially in the area of taking care of the poor in that state.
Fashola started well, and I hope he's continuing to do well. But there are still very, very poor people in this part of the country.
And how are they faring under Fashola?
Fashola might not have scored a distinction, but he has not failed.
Did he do better than Tinubu?
It's the same. It's the same regime, isn't it?
Extension, yeah. So you don't think that he did better than Tinubu?
I wouldn't want to score them to start with. What was available to Tinubu is different from what is not available to Fashola.
Fashola. All right, Dr. Faeshun, thank you so much for coming to SaharaTV.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Nice to hear your voice.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
All right, Rudolf.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to discuss child marriage laws that was recently passed or debated in the Senate. Joining us will be Abiola Afolabi, who is the national coordinator at Gender and Constitution Reform Network. So stand by.